Hello. Hello. I'm just getting everything set up still. Making sure it all looks good. Everybody hear me and the in-game noises pretty well. Okay. See, it's 10:59. I recommend getting a drink or whatever, go to the bathroom. This stream will most likely be posted after, so you guys can go and rewatch it or whatever. But yeah, I don't have like a set schedule or nothing for this stream on what we're going to talk about first. I just kind of have an idea what we're going to do. Also, there's like maybe 5 to 6 seconds lag between when I say something and when you guys can hear me. So it might be a little delayed when I answer questions and stuff. But so for now, I think I'm going to basically go over car tuning basics first to kind of get like that out of the way. And if you guys have oh my gosh. I might I'll just start off with like I think one little basic car and show you guys different things from it. I'm gonna make like pretty much a slab so I can easily change how well it drives versus how bad it drives pretty easily. All right, so we're basically gonna be talking about oversteer and understeer for pretty much everything, because that's pretty much all tuning is oversteer, understeer, and tuning it to where it's balanced to your liking. Okay, so first things first. Here's a simple car, and this hinge is backwards, upside down. Okay. First things first, the car width and the car length, they matter on tuning a vehicle. Tuning any vehicle really matters. So for a car, if the make the car very long, it'll go straight better, but it'll most likely suck more at turning. So for this example, car doesn't turn very well. Like it has a very wide turning radius. If we shorten it by a lot, the wheels like right up next to each other. Now it'll turn very well, but it'll make it hard to keep it straight. But now I only have to do little turns and it'll do a UE like no problem. Whereas this one, oh whoops, we're back. This one doing a U-turn is much wider. All right, center of mass. The center of mass of a car usually needs to be in the middle is best most of the time. We kind of have to tune things for like what you're going for. So there's not really like a perfect tune for anything. You have to tune it for whatever is best, and if it is a perfect tune, you won't really know that it's perfect because there's always probably something that you could slightly improve, even if it's a very minuscule improvement. So if we put the weight of this towards the back, how many viewers do we have? I don't even know. Nope, that's not what I want. There we go. All right, cool. 6 viewers so far. All right, yeah. If you guys have any questions or anything while I'm doing this, just feel free to ask, or if you're following along, kind of like let me know if you're following along, or if you're confused, let me know. So we have the center of mass of this vehicle, which means most of the weight is in the back now because of all these engines that weigh a lot. Now, if we turn with this, it should oversteer a lot. And oversteer means that when I am trying to go straight, it will continue to turn. So like I'll turn a little bit, and I only turned for a second there, like a millisecond, and I did like a full U-turn because there's too much oversteer. And then understeer is opposite. I'll be trying to turn, and it will just keep on trying to go straight. And some people like vehicles that oversteer a lot. Some people like vehicles that kind of understeer a little bit. And like I said, it really depends on the vehicle. So now, when I stop turning, it just goes nice and straight. But if I try to do a sharp turn, it's going to have a lot of understeer, so it turns very wide. Obviously, we want it balanced perfectly where when I stop turning, it goes straight, but I can also turn sharply at high speeds. All right, so downforce. With downforce, you can have all the weight in the front, but if you put the downforce all in the front too, you can make the car start to oversteer more. So now, plus it improves the grip on the front wheels. So now this, even though the weight is really far on the front, it doesn't have as bad of understeer because of that front downforce. So you see the blue is showing the downforce here. if you put the engines in the back, all right, this is really bad. You do not want the center of mass really far in the back and the downforce really far in the front. I wouldn't call it negative mass at high speeds, because the downforce makes your car go down to the ground with more force. It sticks it to the ground more. Downforce pushes the air over the wing and deflects it up, which pushes your car down, which in turn puts more pressure on the wheels. It makes them cling to the ground much more than it would normally. There's pros and cons to downforce. Like in real races, having a ton of downforce will wear out your tires faster because there's so much more weight on them. Also make them heat up more. And trailmakers, you don't have to worry about that. But also downforce slows your car down like it would in real life. Also, like when I'm talking about all these tuning things, I'm talking about real life, and some of it transfers into games, some of it doesn't. So this will work for other games other than trailmakers if they are realistic. And trailmakers, a lot of them don't even work because trailmakers is not super realistic, but it's realistic enough to kind of show off a lot of the basic stuff. So this is going to oversteer a ton because the center of mass is way behind the center of downforce. So if I drive this, I'm going to do a little turn, and I did a full 360 just from tapping the joystick to turn left. And that's horrible. You do not want to drive like that. Unless that's you're trying to do a 360 donut car, then you want your car to drive like that. So now we just swap these. Put the center of mass towards the front. Put the downforce in the back. – 17th place in the Grand Prix. Oops. Oh, that's not connected. 17th place in which ranking? Which power core rank? Is it like Jet League or Base League or what is it? Okay, so this car should severely understeer. The center of mass. Jet League. Okay. So the center of mass in this car is super far to the front, and the downforce is super far on the back. So this thing should really not want to turn at all. Like this turn, I'm just gonna crash into the wall. Crash into, like I can barely even turn. Also, this center of mass and like stuff, this applies to pretty much most vehicles, like planes and boats and stuff too. 7 power cores. I mean 7 propellers for the power core. All right, got it. Makes sense. I think I'm Jet League. I'm rank 29 right now. So I haven't really tried to get high up on the leaderboard again since the reset. All right. So ideally though, in race cars, you want downforce in the front and the back. So this will probably drive all right. The downforce is pretty all right. But if we bring this over here, and we get all this closer to the center, it's better to have the downforce usually slightly behind the center of mass. So like I don't even need these force things. Like I can know from like I know how much these weigh, I know how much all this stuff weighs off the top of my head, like roughly. So this should drive pretty well. You see like when I stop turning, it pretty much stops. It turns decently sharp. So this is a pretty well tuned car. It's a basic tune though, it's not a fine tuned car. So if you're going to fine tune it, you would try to like get everything absolutely perfect and try to like maybe try like one more spoiler or something. But to really fine tune it, you'd want to use like the fins. Seventeenth place or seventh place. So with this, these are kind of better than the spoilers because there's less aerodynamics on them and you can turn them on and off. So let's say I put this to a toggle. Okay, 7. Cool. So with this, let's say I get rid of these spoilers. All right. We will copy this. Okay, so this vehicle, I'm gonna toggle these on, and let me change camera here. So you can see the little fin right here on the front and back on both sides are giving me a ton of downforce because they're angled at a 45-degree angle. So this is gonna be too much downforce for this car, and it'll be fine in trailmakers, but like I'm only going 111 miles an hour now. I'm really stuck to the road. So like I'm gonna handle really well, but the speed is just basically sacrificed majorly. So with this, you could fine tune it. You change all the angles like down to 5. This is probably not going to be enough, and you can tell the difference when I drive this most likely. I can't really stick to the ground, and I'm sliding a lot. Not really, I'm kind of understeering. I don't have enough grip to make these corners. So you want to balance it out. So for this, so the heavier the car is, like the more downforce you need. So this one probably gonna need more like an angle of 20. And that would probably be close to really good. So you can just fine tune stuff like that. Like this is driving really well. I'm still able to hit 140 miles an hour. If I turn it off on the straightaways, I'll go even faster. Turn it back on the curves. Yeah, this is driving like really well. Super easy to control. Pretty fast. Handles great. All right. Now for trailmakers, you don't really need suspension on. Should my front wheels be as far apart from each other? I just really realized that my front wheels are closer together than my back wheels. Um, it affects your car's driving. So for most vehicles, I would recommend just having them spaced out the same. But if some of them are closer together, like let's say it's like this or something, it does change how it works. So I'm pretty sure this would increase going straight stability, but it would decrease the cornering stability. And I think this promotes understeer. I can't remember correctly or completely, so don't don't quote me on that. But if you make these go way in and then these bring these back out, I think this increases instability and promotes oversteer a little bit. So it does matter. And for the most part, the best option is usually just to have them in line. Yeah, this is fine though because we've got a lot of downforce and car's already tuned pretty well. But yeah, this will most likely increase oversteer a little bit. So it's not bad. You got to know like what it changes, and if it works for what you're trying to build, then you can keep it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But for now, I'm gonna keep it wide because a car with low center of mass is more stable. So okay, this center of mass is pretty low, right? And this is really important for like off-road race cars and uh basically almost any race car. But you want this as low as it can go. Like good thing to do would be just to take all these engines here, bring them one thing lower, get that lower, and then oh whoops, don't want to bring that lower. Because that's slightly lower, not by much, but it'll help keep your car from rolling over as much or tilting when you're turning sharp. And if you do something like this, we'll take a 50 kilogram weight here. We'll put it up high. That just shifted this up a little bit. We'll go ahead and actually we'll take it higher. Okay, that moved this up a good bit. Make 100 kilograms. Pretty much the whole weight of the car is now almost doubled and it's way up here. So with the downforce, it'll probably still flip over because it's so heavy up there now. Yeah. And obviously you don't want that. Like the downforce is not even enough to overcome all that weight up there and make your car roll. It's so unstable now. So the center of mass, low as possible. And the lower it is, the less downforce you'll need to keep the wheels on the ground because it'll just stay more on the ground. So like this thing handles pretty good right now. Nice. All right, so another thing you can do, there's multiple things you can do to like tune stuff. It's not like, oh, I have oversteer, so now I have to just throw on a ton of weight in the front. Like this is an option. I can just throw a ton of weight up here, and then it will understeer severely. But you don't want to put weight on a vehicle unless you absolutely have to. So if you can, we'll put all the weight in the back here real quick. We can put the seat back here. Okay, so we have a ton of weight in the back now, and it's gonna oversteer like crazy. I bet. It's gonna turn, and yeah, like I can't really like. I'll do a little turn, just makes me turn a lot. So you don't have to necessarily move the weight to the front. You can tune it out by reducing the downforce in the front and putting a lot in the back. So a little bit in the front. We got 45 on both of these for the angle. And we got a 13 in the front for both of these. Turn it on. See those ones in the back are angled up way higher than the front ones. Now, when we're driving, this should compensate for the heavy weight in the back, and we won't oversteer as much. Like there's still a little bit of oversteer in this, but it's very controllable. It's not bad. I'll do a little turn. See, it straightens out. It straightens out pretty good. Takes a second longer than it should, but you can just put on even more downforce in the back. Put on more here, and then this will probably understeer a little bit because there's so much downforce in the back. Like this car turns like well now. Like it turns good. But again, you want as little downforce as you can while still handling well. So the best thing to do is just not, that's kind of like a band-aid fix. It's best just to try to get all this weight slightly to the center or slightly to the front if you're trying to build a race car. So that's pretty much right in the middle almost. Now we don't need as much downforce. And it handles a little bit better this way, and I can go a little bit faster. All right, so now there's suspension. Suspension adds like another layer of complication and stuff like that. So throw on suspension real quick. Like I said, on trailmakers, you don't really want suspension at all on the Grand Prix or any other super flat surface. But for off-roading, you sometimes want it. Just depends on how bad it is. In real life, you always want suspension on a car. There's like not really any situation where you would not want suspension in real life on a car that, yeah. Okay. So for most sports cars and like race cars and stuff like that, their suspension is usually pretty stiff because I mean they're usually driving on a flat road, so there's not usually big bumps, and they got a lot of downforce. And the more downforce you have, the stiffer your suspension needs to be to compensate for all the downforce. Also, the heavier your car is, the more stiff the springs need to be. Also, there's spring stiffness and there's damping. So there's a difference between these. The stiffness means that it's just going to increase the resistance on the spring basically to make it much harder to compress the spring. The damping though makes it where the spring won't like move as fast, so it like slows down how fast the spring can be compressed or uncompressed. And in real life, you can change. There's like rebound spring damping, and there's also bump damping. There's other names for it too. But basically, the rebound would be how fast the spring can uncompress. So it'll uncompress more slowly if there's more damping, and uncompress faster if there's no damping. Let me go to a road real quick that's off-road. Over here. Let me change these wheels because they suck for off-road. Tires should be covered with aero blocks. They do not have the best aero. Okay, so put on these wheels. All right. As you see, the springs are fully extended right now. We're gonna weaken all of them, actually. We're gonna put these on to 0. So now they can't even like hold the car weight up because they're so weak. And obviously this is bad for your car. You want it to where when the car basically like lands, you see like a little bit of give and stuff like that from a bump or a jump or whatever. So we'll try put it on like 30. This is a pretty lightweight car. Still too weak. Actually, let me put a gimbal on here. It'll help me showcase this a little bit better. Okay, so yeah, they're kind of compressed right now. All right, let's back on orbit. Oops. Okay, so the gimbals make it where you can see the suspension nice. Oop. Okay, so right now they're not really giving me much resistance. If the suspension is really soft and they have a ton of downforce and they can press like all the way down to nothing, where it's called bottoming out. If the suspension, well, it's not called bottoming out. It's called. Yeah, I mean, I think it's called suspension bottoming out. So basically, the if the suspension becomes fully compressed, you never want that. Um, unless you like you hit like a really big jump or you hit like a really big fall or something like that. Like you should have it to where your suspension is tuned to get close to be fully compressed on your average driving surface that you're using it for, and kind of like hover between the middle of halfway like compressed and uncompressed. If it's like fully uncompressed the whole time, then that's too stiff. If it's fully compressed pretty much the whole time, then that's too soft. So if right now these look still a little bit too soft because they are uncompressed. Or yeah, they're pretty compressed. So now they look a little bit better. So look a little bit more. They look a little bit compressed while the car weight is sitting on them, which is what you want. Go take this on. All right, so they are still a little bit too. I'm looking at mostly the back ones right now. The back ones, they look a little bit too weak because I went over a little bump and they fully compressed. Kind of a big jump for a realistic. Yeah, so I am going to show you like the extremes real quick. So let's say the stiffness is all the way low, but the damping is all the way high. Doing all of them. This will make it where in most like real life situations, the spring will compress easily, but it'll compress slowly. So you see it takes a while, but they eventually go all the way. And then same with going up. They take forever to go up. Yeah, that little plant there. Yeah, they take forever to go up, but they take forever to go down, even though they're weak as freak. Like they can't even support the vehicle at all. That's what the damping does. And vice versa. If you have the damping all the way low, but it's super stiff, you're gonna bounce around like a freaking trampoline. So like if I hit a pretty big jump, it's gonna be like a literal spring and just I'm gonna land and probably bounce up off the ground. Oops. And try to hit a nice little jump. Okay, so these ones aren't really making me bounce up too bad. I don't think they have enough strength. But you see they're barely even moving while I'm driving on stuff. Yeah, like they uncompress so quick. They barely even move. It's almost like not even having suspension because they're so stiff. Now, if you do max on both of these, they're really not going to freaking move unless you have something really heavy to put on them. Hello, I'm late. You're all good. We're talking about suspension, stiffness, and rebounding right now. Yeah, so right now it's way too stiff. Now, this stiffness might be okay for like a sports car. Like I said, you want it really stiff. If you're like on pavement and you got a F1 car or something like that, you need stiff suspension. But for off-road vehicles, like if you have a rock crawler vehicle, you would want this as soft as it could be while still holding your vehicle up enough. And if it was like just a regular like rally car, you'd want it a little bit stiffer than a rock crawler, but still pretty loose because off-road needs looser suspension usually, like in most cases. So yeah, that looks too weak even for off-road. Like almost fully compressed. I didn't hit a bump. All right, so also suspension affects your oversteer and understeer. So if you have super weak suspension up front, let's say like these are on like 40, 50, whatever, and these are in the back, in trailmakers, yeah, the stiffness and damping should be around the same, but on real life cars, it it depends a lot. So it really depends on like what your car is made for, what surface you're gonna be driving it on. Is like really bumpy? Is it big bumps? Is it little bumps? If it's a bunch of little bumps, then you want normally the rebound to be pretty low damping. But if and the stiffness pretty low too. But if you're like going on some big jumps and stuff, like you're in a Baja truck or something, you might want the stiffness a little bit higher and the damping still kind of low. Yeah, we already discussed like the difference between stiffness and dampening. And there's more damping obviously than this. There's rebound damping and bump damping or bumps damping stiffness and stuff like that. Okay, so back to what I was saying a minute ago. If the stiffness on the rear suspension is super stiff and then the front suspension is weak, it's going to promote oversteer a little bit. So I don't have the downforce on. Let's see how it drives. Drives kind of understeery a little bit. Now if we swap these, we'll make these ones pretty stiff. And we'll make these ones in the back much weaker. 4. But this should promote understeer. I don't know if it'll show in trailmakers, but let's see how it works in trailmakers. In real life, though, that's how it works. I'm pretty sure. And the trailmakers looks like it's actually promoting oversteer. I think there's like a threshold though. I'm not like super knowledgeable on this part. So I think if you make the front too stiff, it'll promote oversteer because your wheels won't like have as great of grip on the ground. And the front, which can obviously like mess stuff up, but this has to be really balanced. So like if you take these values too far in the front and back, then you might increase oversteer, but you also might increase understeer. So if you actually, let's just put all these down like really low. That's good. Yeah, so this is promoting understeer because the front ones don't have as much grip because they're so weak that I don't really push against the concrete that much and provide grip. But if you bring these up a little bit, let's say like 1, and then these are 2, this should provide a little bit more oversteer. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Not a whole lot. The suspension tuning for oversteer and understeer doesn't make a huge difference from front to back. It can change a little bit though. It really just, the downforce front to back and the center of mass front to back are probably like the more important factors when tuning out major amounts of oversteer and understeer. The suspension will help a little bit, but not a ton on tuning it out. All right. So let's see. All right. This part I can't really show in trailmakers because you don't have differentials in trailmakers. So I might save it for Forza Horizon 5 or something like that if I go in there on that game to show you. Yeah, I think we'll go to that later. But so another way to get rid of oversteer is you can actually use vertical fins too, which you don't really see on cars really, but this does work in real life too. So fins in the back on any vehicle that are vertical like this increase understeer. So if I line this whole thing up with fins, it's gonna like make it really hard to turn compared to if I didn't have them at all. So like I'm not turning well at all right there. And the more you have and the bigger they are, like the more your vehicle will want to go straight, no matter if it's a boat or a plane or whatever. But if you put these all the way in the front, now this will increase oversteer, and I'll probably turn way too sharp and spin out and all other bull crap. Nope, they're not that bad. There's not really enough oversteer in the car to make it bad. So this actually kind of benefits the vehicle because it already had too much understeer. I have fins in the back and still turn too much. If I get rid of them, my back will come out any turn. So basically what you're saying is you oversteer too much with the fins, and without the fins you'll really oversteer. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So if you're oversteering that badly, you either need to add a lot more fins to the back or bring your center of mass more towards the front, or remove some of the downforce from the front and move it to the back. Like if I put on, if I take all this stuff, I'm gonna show you like the worst oversteer vehicle you can pretty much make within like these components I have here. Obviously make it worse if you add more stuff. That can stay there. All right, we're gonna put basically no downforce here. All right, tons of downforce in the front. This car should be severely horrible when it comes to oversteering. I'm just gonna get rid of suspension for now because it'll showcase it better without it. Okay, this is a oversteer disaster right here. Weights in the back, downforce is really high in the front. The fins are also in the front. This car will want to drive backwards, basically. I forgot these wheels slide too much. They don't really have enough grip to showcase either. Okay. That yeah, oversteered really bad. Doing like multiple 360s just from a little turn. Now we'll swap all this around. So put this up there. Oh. All this back here. We'll swap these so the downforce is way in the back. Now this thing is gonna go so freaking straight. And if we wanted to increase it to go straight even more, we would lengthen this. And now like it's really not gonna freaking turn. It's gonna be so, this is like basically a dragster at this point. Like wow, it actually turns way better than it should. Let me get rid of actually wait. Put more downforce in the back. There we go. Oh wait. Put this up here too. Okay. Like, I don't know why this is like not understeering that bad right now. Maybe it's just got too much downforce overall. Get rid of all that and bring this down a little bit. Okay. Should be a little bit more understeery. It's funny, it's still actually turning pretty good. Like it still understeers, but like not as bad as I thought it would. Let me just turn these off. Yeah, this is actually not too bad. Like the understeer is there, as you see on this corner, but it's better than having way too much oversteer like the previous version. All right. All right, so basically all the stuff we learned about like cars can kind of be applied to planes and boats to some extent, not all of it, but so let's say get rid of this stuff. Actually, wait, I think I have a plane I already built. We'll just save that for now. I have a plane that I built to showcase tuning. All right, well, no worry. You won't suck at boats as bad by the time I show you. Okay, so you can use all these force things if you want. This is a vertical stabilization, which is these two things. This is a horizontal stabilization, which is these, this, these, and then you have your thrust center of thrust, which is these two engines right here. Also is up and down. And then you get the lift, which is the blue one here. That is provided by these, but there's also some lift from like this block right here, even though it's not a lot. And a little bit from these two, I think, even though it's not a lot. So right now, this is, I believe it's a balanced plane. I think it all works well. The center of thrust is in line with the center of mass. So I'm pretty sure this all will fly pretty straight if I left it that way. All right, so we're flying. I'm not touching the controls. And it's staying pretty level. Flies nice. Do some turning. Flies nice and smooth. All right, now let's screw it up. Go over to the flatter area here. Okay, so if your plane is flying max speed or whatever, and it's tilting up, it could be multiple things, but let's just say that it's the thrust. So now this is below my center of mass. So now when I'm flying this, it should slightly tilt up. All right, let's see. Let me level it out real quick. Okay, I'm not touching the controls anymore. And you see it's pitching up by itself quite a bit. Which I think it's a little bit better for it to pitch up a little bit than to pitch down a little bit, especially if you're dogfighting. But now if we throw these up here, center of thrust is above the center of mass. Yeah, you can program the logic block to fix the pitch, but again, it's kind of like a band-aid. Like if you do that, you're gonna fix it with that. But if you can, it's better just to have it all aligned. But if you can't have it all aligned, then yeah, just do that. But you're gonna slow down your plane a little bit. Your top speed will be slightly slower in trailmakers and most likely in real life because you're constantly pushing air more with it. All right, so this plane should pitch down a little bit while it is flying. You get up here. Okay, so I'm not going to touch controls, and as you see now, it's pitching down. So yeah, you can either, yeah, so you can do the elevator thing like that person was saying. Your cat's attacking your computer screen. That sucks. All right, so yeah, you can fix it with the elevators, like he was saying, where you kind of have it like aimed up or down to cancel out these being out of alignment. But another thing you can do is move the wings forward. So right now it's pitching down. We'll move them up twice. Okay, I'll call you Matt. So now, since the center of lift is in front of that, it should kind of cancel out this pitching it down, because the wings should kind of lift up the front of the plane a little bit while the back is not being lifted as much. So now it might be level or might pitch up a little bit. Let's see. All right, not touching the controls anymore. Now it's slightly pitching up, even though the engines are above the center of mass, because the wings are moved forward and it lifts up the front a little bit more than the back. All right. Now we'll put these back here. We'll put these back in the middle. Okay, now if your plane is not flying straight where you want it to, it could be you have too much stabilization that's either too far forward, or you just don't have any in the back or something like that. So if I put these right here, this thing is going to yaw, which means turn left and right a lot, because the stabilization is not far enough back for that vertical stabilization. So if I do a little turn here, it's not too bad with this, because it's still kind of aligned, but in real life this would probably be a lot worse. Trailmakers is kind of more okay with it not being that far back. I move these up a little bit more, so now this is definitely in front of the center of mass. Now it should definitely really not be stable on the yaw axis. So like now I'm just turning a lot and can't go straight. And I did a flat spin there to my death. So the more like wings you put up here, the worse this is gonna be. You have like 4 up in the front and only like 1 in the back, is gonna be bad still, because it's the center of vertical stabilization is too far on the front. So I can see it kind of like it doesn't really fly that straight. It's better though. But if you put a ton of these in the back, and none in the front, it's going to be too stable for like a fighter jet, but it might be fine for like a passenger plane or something. Just depends on what you're building. But now if I try to yaw, it'll yaw a little bit because I got a lot of them, but like it'll kind of do like a little wobble thing when I'm done with it, because it's so much stabilization in the back that it actually kind of makes it almost less stable. The yaw on this still is, it's not too bad. Not to show it. It's kind of hard to show some of the stuff in trailmakers. I'm gonna do the horizontal stabilization though. Okay, so delete those. Same with this as the vertical basically, but this will affect your pitch a lot. So if we put a ton in the back, you're not gonna turn, or you're not gonna pitch well. You're gonna lose a ton of speed in the air, and like your pitch is gonna be slow. So I'm gonna full on pitch, do a full on roll. I lose a lot of speed, and I didn't turn that sharp. Do it again. This is not horrible. Like again, for if you're making a passenger jet or something, a lot in the back is good. But for a fighter jet, you want to keep the speed and stuff like that. You don't want it to be super stable. So if we put too much in the front or too close to the front, we'll take these, bring them. We'll do it out here. So this would be like basically a really short plane. If you had one, you got the wings and that right there. This should turn, this should pitch really well. As far as you'll be able to do tons of 360s, but you won't probably be able to fly straight. Yeah, this is not too bad still, because trailmakers is a little unrealistic. But in real life, this plane probably would do a lot of front flips or back flips or both. All right, so if you had it like this, but I'm gonna take the controls off of these for now. This should make it a lot more unstable. Okay, yeah, so I barely even touch the pitch controls, and it turns a lot. So this is actually not too bad in trailmakers. This would actually be pretty good for dogfighting. Still pretty controllable. But like I can make much sharper turns with this, and I don't lose as much speed. Because the plane is not fighting me as much. So that's like very maneuverable and actually pretty controllable. Now, if I get rid of these now, this time, this is going to be super unstable now, for sure, because there's nothing in the back. This one will probably not go where I want it to go. Even I don't have any controls with it really, but so I think this is staying so stable because of the big old wings I have on it. Let me get rid of these wings. Or actually, these are keeping it stable because they're far enough back. Okay. This will make it unstable. Yeah. Now I can't even go straight. Yes, I play on PC with a controller in most games because it's more comfortable. And it's actually better. Controller's better for driving games than a keyboard. Get more fine control over your vehicle. Unless you're driving like a slow vehicle, then it doesn't really matter. Driving like a freighter ship, you can use a controller. It doesn't really matter at that point. All right. So back to this. Let me fix that. We go back to the default one. All right. So for roll is pretty simple. If you have these like really in close to the center here, it will be less responsive, but you'll roll faster. Whereas out here, if you have like way out here, it'll be more responsive, but you won't be able to roll as fast. So that's not a huge deal though, especially in trailmakers. And basically it's pretty easy. You just kind of put it where you like it the best. Doesn't make a huge difference unless you have it like super close or super wide. You won't really notice the difference that much. For planes though, is there anything else I'm missing? Oh yeah. So your plane could also be tilting up or down because let's say you just have like a weird shaped plane or whatever. And this will make it tilt up because there's a ton of drag over top of the center of mass. So this will make it tilt up because it's like a freaking air brake above the center of mass and in the front. So if you have a build and you're like, okay, all this stuff's aligned and it's still tilting up, it could be drag from something like this. So let's test it real quick. Okay, so you can't really notice it that much because it's not a ton, but it is tilting up a little bit. Let me put something a little bit bigger up there. Okay, let me put this here. Okay, this should make the plane tilt up a noticeable amount because there's a ton of drag above the center of mass in the front. Obviously, it slows me down a lot too, but I'm having to push the stick down. If I let go of the stick, it tilts me way up. So that's another thing that can throw your plane off balance. That it might not be as obvious as this, obviously. Like it could be something small, like the wheels. The wheels have drag on them, so this pulls my plane down and makes the nose tilt down because they're below the center of mass. Like if I get rid of all the wheels, this plane should now tilt up because it was pretty much stable perfectly before. And yeah, now it tilts up quite a bit. Push it down. Yeah, no, not touching the controls, it's tilting up. Just because of the drag of the wheels. So obviously, like if I put more stuff on the bottom over here that has a lot of drag on it in the front, this is really going to probably just prevent me from even taking off because there's so much. See how much it's pulling my nose down? Yeah. So yeah, most of the time it'll be more subtle than that. That's just an extreme example to showcase. If let me see, pull a actual build I have out. I just use this because it's like the default plane almost that you get in the PvP maps. All right, so this one, center of mass is pretty much in the center of all this. Like even the drag from these 4 arrows right here on each side will make the plane pitch up more, unless there's something like these guns down here to counterbalance it. This one's probably not perfectly tuned though. This one probably tilts up a little bit. I haven't flown this one forever. Oh, this has gyros on it and all other junk. Let's see, is it? Yeah, that sucks. That's an old plane that I built. Just basically a modified default plane. All right, so we'll go to boats now. So again, the boats in the, oh wait, I forgot. All right, so this is the same thing with the cars as the planes. All right, if your plane is too stable and like flying in a straight line like crazy, you can put a bunch of weight in the back, just like the car. All right, so now the weight is way back here, and this will make the plane way less stable. It'll turn like crazy, probably will not fly straight. Yeah, can't even fly straight because the weight's too far back. All right, but if you want your plane not to turn as much, you can put the thrust way up here, because the thrust and the weight matter. So like if the center of thrust is in front of this, your plane won't turn as well. But if it's in the back, it'll turn a lot better. So this one probably won't turn as good, or should not turn as good. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to do a full loop right here. He barely wants to turn. I'm giving all I got. Can't even do a loop. Which that's good for passenger planes or at least stable planes that like whatever. But if I put these in the back here, I'm gonna be able to turn much better. But if I put them too far back and have too many, like let's say I put all that back there, this will probably make it turn way too much. So now I'm not even pressing the controls and it's doing a loop by itself. Now if I try to make it do a loop, it's like super loopy. That's why thrusters are usually in the back on like fighter jets and stuff, because it makes it way more maneuverable. So yeah, if you want more stability, move them to the front. If you want less, move them to the back. Tune it how you want your plane to fly. Like, this is still pretty controllable though. Like I have to fight it a little bit, but this is not bad. It's flyable. Whereas if I move this forward just a tiny bit, we'll do a nice little adjustment tune here. Right there, 2 spaces forward on all of them. This should actually make it much better. I can still do pretty sharp turns, but it stabilizes out a little bit better. Stabilizes out a little bit better. So you can see just moving those engines 2 blocks forward made like a big difference. Makes it fly much better. Because you're shifting the weight forward a little bit and the center of thrust forward at the same time. So engine placement on a plane is very, very important. All right, Um, also the same with cars. Obviously, like if you have front wheel drive, which means there's only power going to the front wheels on a car, it'll make it more understeery. If you have only rear wheel drive on a car, it'll make it more oversteery. So wherever the thrust is coming from on a vehicle will make it oversteer more or understeer more. Doesn't matter if it's a boat or a plane or whatever. All right, I think that's it for planes right now. So, any questions, anybody, on any of this stuff I've talked about so far? Looks like I have no viewers. Okay. I'm gonna make a boat. I'm gonna do boat tuning now. Looks like I still have. I don't know why it's saying I have no viewers. I don't know. I heard this thing floats. I want to test it real quick. Barely. Barely floats. Yeah, that's right. What do you want me to call you? Um, Stone. I don't know. What do you want me to call you? Your name's kind of complicated. No, no, not you. I know to call you Matt, the other guy. Neil. Okay, that's easier. Oh yeah, so Neil, that is correct. All right, so the same thing goes for boats. So I'm gonna put on. No, you're all good. I'm gonna put on a submarine thing just in case we shift over to subs. Subs and planes are like basically the exact same. It's just the water is obviously thicker and the aerodynamics turn into hydrodynamics, and they're much more brutal than aerodynamics. So obviously you can't go as fast in water as you can air. And also, like fish, like sharks, sharks are very hydrodynamic and very aerodynamic. Like almost all fish are like almost, well, not all fish, but like most fish are very aerodynamic because water is more brutal than air. And if you're not hydrodynamic in the water, then you're most likely slow. All right, I'm gonna make a simple boat here. Okay, so with boats, obviously the bigger they are, the more stable they're gonna be. So if I make this really wide and long, it's obviously gonna be way more stable, just like a car, way more stable. Yeah. Yeah, so what Matt said, air technically behaves like a liquid, just not a thick liquid. So the hydrodynamics are basically just like air, except water is way heavier. And it's kind of like comparing water to peanut butter. Like swimming in peanut butter, it has so much more resistance on water, and walking in water has way more resistance than walking in air. So it's pretty much the same, except it's just much heavier and gives a lot more resistance. And I'll pass the saying it 3 times fast. Okay, so in trailmakers, it's a little weird. In real life, you have to worry about like front and back aerodynamics. Like if you have, ugh, if you have something like Let's say like this. Okay. Let me grab these. Okay, if you have something like this in real life, right? Bunch of high aerodynamic shapes in the front in real life. Then you have like this big flat piece in the back like this. It's gonna make a lot of drag in the air. In trailmakers, it doesn't change a thing in the air, but in trailmakers, the water is more like it should be. So actually, let me connect this. I'm using these bumpers because they don't have any aerodynamics at all or hydrodynamics. It's not connected. It's really connected. Oh, it's not. Okay, so let me put an engine on here and I can show you. All right, our top speed in this is only 64-ish, right? If we take this whole thing, flip it around, see there's tons of bad aerodynamics everywhere. And in real life, this affects air and water. And trailmakers, it only affects the water. So we will fix all this and see what the top speed change is. Okay, so now we have all green in the back and all green in the front. And like I said, this is realistic for water and air in real life. Now let's test the top speed. Before it was 64 miles an hour. Now it's like 170, I guess. Let me turn the waves off real quick. All right, let's test actual top speed now. Yeah, I use OBS for YouTube. All right, we like over doubled our speed just from fixing the arrow in the back. Went from 64 miles an hour to like 186. All right. Now, so let's fix all of this. So for boats, it's the same thing pretty much as planes. You need like fins and stuff to increase the mobility and turning and all that of your vehicles. So for this, we will put Also, don't put these right next to each other because then you're basically like canceling out one side of them. Okay, so these have pretty good aerodynamics in the front and back, so I'm not worried about it right now. Let's see which way they turn in. Okay, they're turning the right way. So now I can turn, but I can't turn that well because they're pretty far back and they don't have a big angle on them. Increase that a little bit. Just put it up to 45. So this turns pretty good. If I put these way further back though, it would not turn that well. Also, for really fast boats in trailmakers, you kind of want to have these more vertical. Obviously, I can get rid of all these. I don't need these big ones. Yeah, so in trailmaker really fast boats, you want all these to be like this because in real life and in trailmakers, the air and the water will come down here, bounce off of this, and push the water down or the air and push your boat up. Same with this one. It'll come over here, bounce off of this, push the water or air up, and then push your boat down. And if you're going really fast, this just gets to be too much usually. And it will either launch your boat flying into the air or will launch it underwater where you drown. So if you do like this, they are both neutral, up and down. Same with the back. The back affects it too. But now it's all vertical. Yes, your jacking does work for boats. But you need to do the front and the back for a boat. You can't do just the front. All right, so if I take these things and let's say I move them like way back here, extend this out. We can extend this out too, actually. All right, since these are so far away from the center of mass, it should make my boat turn much wider radius, like more understeer basically. Actually doesn't seem that bad still. Let me put them up the front so we can just kind of see the difference. That's a little too far front. Go. Still a little too far front. Yeah, so where you put these matters on how well it turns your boat. So like right here, actually did not turn that well. I think the further back on the boats actually helps it turn better. I'm thinking I'm mixing it up with the engine. If the engine's further back, it makes it. better, I think. I can't remember. All right, so yeah, this actually turns. This actually turns better. I would have to make it like crazy long to show how it makes it turn worse if it's too far back. But sometimes you need really long boats. So that way it's stable. So this is not like crazy long for a trailmakers racing boat. This is kind of normal. Then I think. Yeah, boats, I do not know as much about boats as I do the other stuff. So I'm just giving you like the very main basics on boats. All right, so now if I turn, it's definitely a wider turn radius now. It slows it down a lot more. Undo all that and go back to how it was so we can kind of compare and then move on to the next boat tuning. Undo. Where's the rear? There it is. Okay. All right, so boat verticality and the weight with boats, you really want the center of mass lower because it really helps. Like if you have, let's bring this in. Obviously, most boats are not like that wide, and the reason that is. All right, yeah. So most boats are obviously really skinny and long, and obviously, if I try to drive around like this, I'm probably gonna flip over. Yeah. So can't stop moving. To fix that, keep boats from falling over. Normally, they have they're pretty tall, right? And let me just throw like this right there. Okay, so now we have a little bit taller boat, and we are going to what's up, Hydrohexus? Teaching how to tune vehicles. Okay, so boats normally have. You think I would be better at boats since I've lived in aircraft carrier for 5 years? Yeah, kind of would think. All right, so boats normally have like a very heavy low point. So I'm gonna put like a ton of weights here. Bring the center of mass way down. Normally on boats, it's called like a keel. I think, and they make the keel super heavy. Adjust this a little bit. Okay. So yeah, we have the weight really low now. Ah. We don't have enough buoyancy for all that. We need to reduce that slightly. All right, the weight's too far to the back for, yeah, it's too far back. So basically you need to balance with a boat, you have to balance the flotation pieces. They need to be above the weight, and they need to obviously be enough to compensate for how much the weight is. So this one, it's a lot of weight, so I need a little bit more, and they need to be back further and kind of more to make this more centered. And that should help this boat basically become more stable. And that's how, this is what kind of the method that most boats use. Obviously, like the more distance you have from the weight and then the main flotation pieces in vertical distance, the more stable the boat should be on like turns and stuff. Obviously, it gets to where it's too far, and then it kind of makes it everything is basically balanced. You want to balance it out. Now I'm super heavy and slow. Let me fix the arrow on these two. Oh wait, I forgot to put that on. Okay. Okay, so now when I turn, a little bit more stable. I need more power though now that I put all this weight on. Okay. All right, let's see what happens when I turn. So since we have a little weight down the bottom now, I mean it's staying pretty stable because the center of mass is pretty low, and it kind of like just it sucks the boat down into the water and keeps it from just rolling over like a beached whale. So yeah, this is what most boats do. And that's why they're so like tall and thin, because they got all that weight down there. Usually like the boat's engines are down near the bottom of the boat, and that puts a ton of weight down there. That's why all these giant cruise ships and stuff look like they're barely even in the water. And you're like, why does the thing just freaking tip over? Like, they look like they should just roll over. Hello, Liam, the OG. I'm guessing that's how you say your name. So yeah, this is what you would do basically if you're making a big boat. Obviously, if you're making a more racing style boat like we had, it's usually better just to make it wider as well. So you're not only relying on that weight, but you're also relying on the width as well. Stability. I'm gonna put on the bumpers because they have hydrodynamics. Oh, where'd that come from? Okay, let me move that over slightly. Width only increases drag if you connect it with something that has aerodynamics. So in this case, we're kind of cheating the width thing because these chrome bumpers, they don't have aero. Like, you see all the arrows here, there's none on those. So in trailmakers, put something long and skinny out there and make sure there's no arrow on it, and you can kind of cheat the not having the weight things. Obviously, yeah, the weight makes things bad for racing. So I mean, this is like a super stable boat. In other games, you're gonna have to balance it all out. You're gonna have to balance the width out. You can, in other games, you can do something like this where the things are connected with something that's sticking out of the water, and also have basically have this all out of the water and still have it wide, because like this obviously wouldn't be very sturdy in certain games, but like if you can make it like connected in two spots or something, but you still have to have some weight in the bottom. Doesn't need to be this much. It just needs to be enough that it's stable. So this needs to be pretty much balanced out. This all needs to be like, the more you can get the weight perfect in the center of the whole boat, the better. So that looks kind of far back. Try moving it forward a little bit. It's better to have it slightly towards the back than slightly towards the front, because if you have it too far to the front, you'll go underwater. And this obviously is a poor trailmakers setup. Like, you can make it with much more aerodynamic pieces, but this is just kind of to show like some things that you could do that would be more realistic. It wouldn't need to be that high either. That's just a little bit dramatic. But I didn't feel like, making it super great. As long as those pieces are out of the water, then you could make it wider. But yeah, the boats, I mean, it really just kind of depends on what kind of race. If you're doing a drag race, you don't need it really wide like this at all, really. So you could just put it close together, put a couple weights down the bottom to make sure that it's the center of weight is kind of like below the buoyancy blocks, or the main source of buoyancy on the boat. Just saying. I think the engines are barely in the water now. And then for trail makers, I'll just save that for now in case I go back to it. For trail makers, if you're gonna use something like a gyro, then where's my racing boat at? Obviously, gyros make it where you don't have to tune like anything, and they're basically like a cheese. Here's my boat. This is my racing boat, basically, that uses gyros, that cheeses it all. So this basically pretty much perfectly balanced, I think. Yeah, so trailmakers, that's kind of bull crap you can do. Obviously, like kind of cheap. If you don't want the gyros, you can't do that. You have to have. If I was not gonna have the gyros, I would probably just make this way wider and longer. So I would do. I don't know if you saw Scrapman's boat race we did. Looking back on it, I'm like, I really didn't widen my boat enough. Like I would have it, I don't know, maybe like this wide. I don't need that lower piece. Technical difficulties. There we go. You don't really need that, most likely. And then just throw on all those bumper pieces. That is not symmetrical. All right, that looks symmetrical. Then also, I would make it much longer because keeping things stable on the water when you have a ton of engines is pretty difficult. And the longer it is, the more stable it is. That's symmetrical. It looks like it is symmetrical, but also looks like it's not. I'm gonna say it is. And then we'll extend this part too. I'm gonna throw a bunch of engines on here and see how well this goes. And I'm gonna get rid of all these weights except for a couple. I don't want that. I don't want that thing pointing up either. So I'm going to change it to two of these and make it where they are basically perfectly up and down. All right, where's the center? Center of mass looks pretty good. Um, I think this is the best racing strategy if you're not using gyros because it's so wide and stable. And then you kind of just you have to balance it out. I could be wrong. There might be a better racing strategy without gyros. This might need more weight. You basically want the boat to be like barely floating, like where it's almost underwater, I think. So you could get rid of some of these and replace them with just normal pieces. It doesn't even show your center of thrust on the boat. Weird. Looks like it's slightly below the center of mass, that should be fine. All right, let's just see how this drives real quick. Looks really stable so far. Obviously, this is not really the seat you want to use either. I'm gonna get rid of the seat. Put on go-kart seat. We'll have this slightly above the engine, I think should be good. And we'll get rid of all this extra junk. That. All right. Yeah, I'll see you. Yeah, we'll probably I sometimes host public servers and just chill with people. If you're on trailmakers, you can always just comment on a video or something or whatever, and I'll see if I'm online. I'm gonna simplify this. I'm just thinning this out as fast as I can here, so less hydrodynamic issues. All right. Now I just gotta take these, connect all this. Maybe take this whole thing. It'll let me move it. Oops. I want to move it over one too. Did I already move that one? Oh, I think I just deleted a piece. All right, I think that's symmetrical. All right. So let me add a couple more engines. Okay, now we got 6 engines. See how this goes. Oh, I think I deleted my fins. I'm like, I'm not turning. All right, I'm put my fins back on. Yeah, I did delete them. Might be better just to have one, since put them right next to each other doesn't really make a big difference. All right, so we're going 400 miles an hour. I can do some pretty sharp turns without worrying about flipping over. Let's give it more speed, see if we can make it flip. All right. Yeah. See what our top speed is without turning. Now we're starting to get a little unstable. All right, so that's where like basically we're unbalanced. So we got to tune that out, and it's because our weight is too far back. If we take like this, I'll just put another engine up here. 2. All right, that looks slightly more balanced. I don't think it's enough though. Yeah, if you see, we're kind of still angled up. Add a little bit more. Yeah, I'm not too hard to get into a server with. Like, I don't play trailmakers as much as I used to, but I'm definitely like not hard to reach like a huge YouTuber. I'm not a very big YouTuber still. All right, so we're more stable, but not stable enough. All right, we got to figure out why that happened. I need to zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole boat. All right, so it looks like we're kind of leaning back a little bit still. Yeah, once you get to super high speeds, the harder it is to balance it. Like this is, it's gonna be difficult. I'll just throw like one more engine up here. All right, that looks slightly more centered. Honestly, one of the easiest ways to make sure it's perfectly balanced is to count out all your pieces. So if you just take all this and make sure everything's perfectly equal on every side. Get that for now. C, can't put the C perfectly in the middle, but I know what I forgot. No, actually, it's fine. Okay, so we have 7 engines in the back. How many do we have up here? And 7 in the front. This is a little off though. That probably needs to be slightly back there. That can be removed. That can be removed. Okay, and then this is 8, and this one is 7. So this is not perfectly balanced because this thing is not in the middle, but I kind of have it offset a little bit from these two bottom weights. So we'll have to see how stable it is. That's much more stable and actually can turn without flipping over until you turn too sharp. Don't turn too sharp. But yeah, that's the easiest way to balance out a super fast racing boat. Just try to make it like symmetrical in every single way and then put a little weight on the bottom. Yeah, I'll save that for now. All right. So I've covered cars, I've covered planes, I've covered boats. I haven't done much with like the off-roading or more in-depth car tuning because the car tuning gets more complicated. If you guys want to see me go to Forza Horizon 5 instead of Trailmakers to show more in depth on off-road car tuning and more in depth just street car tuning, I can go to that game instead. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Yeah, the differentials I would have to show in Forza Horizon 5 since there is no differentials in Trailmakers. Yeah, I think I'm gonna turn off my screen for a second and I'll load up Forza Horizon 5. Also, I kinda need to go to the bathroom. So while this is loading up, I think I'm gonna go take a pee. Hopefully Forza doesn't have a big update or nothing. If you guys need to go take a food break or a bathroom break, now is probably a good time to do it. All right, everybody there. The game is loading up right now. All right, we're about to get a little bit more in depth on the car tuning. Aggressiveness on screwdrivers. I haven't checked into the new screwdrivers update yet. Um, I'm not sure what they mean by progressiveness. If I saw all the settings there, I'd have to kind of see the context of it. Progressiveness still kind of sounds like dampening to me, just off the top of my head on what makes sense here. Try this volume down a little bit. Where's the music? I don't know. I've been on Forza in a little bit. All right, so we'll do regular car tuning and talk about like what everything is, and then we'll go into like the more off-roading after that, I think. Yeah, I don't really get too much into the trailmakers off-roading just because I don't know, the physics for off-roading aren't as good. They're kind of wonky, a little bit uh glitchy and stuff like that. So I messed around with it a little bit. Like I messed around with it today. I made a build from the challenge Scrapman gave out to everybody today. And I worked on that for like 40 minutes or something. And I beat his time around that rally track. Hurry up and optimize. I think the rock crawling physics in Trailmakers, that I think is a little bit better. It's like whenever the suspension starts going at a high speed on a vehicle, that's when it starts getting like really just glitchy, and it's like they're too weak for the car or something. Actually, I'm not sure what I have on this car. I want all-wheel drive on it, so I don't have to switch. Just rewind it. Rewind the stream temporarily. Okay, I do have all-wheel drive with this. All right, we can use this Ferrari. I think it has a splitter on it too. Yeah, it looks like it does. Ferrari F50. Cool freaking car. All right, so I'm turn the game sound up a little bit. Not too much. Ooh, I got some stuff. All right, so for tuning, we got all this good stuff. Forza Horizon 5 is not that realistic. Um, so it should be able to like kind of demonstrate the main things I need to demonstrate, but there's kind of like if you tune it realistically, your car will handle better, but it's not like the best tune because of Forza Horizon 5 not being that accurate. We'll start at the differential, I guess. So the differential is the thing that locks up the wheels to get the same amount of power between all of them or just the rear or just the front, depending on if your car is front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. And so for this car, it's all wheel drive, so I can explain all of it without having to switch cars. So at first, we'll talk about the front. So if your car is only front wheel drive, then when you accelerate, the faster your car wheels spin, like basically the more the differential will lock up. And if we look at the front wheels, when I press the gas, they'll both spin pretty much almost equally. Especially if it's like 100% locked, then they will always spin at the same speed. Let me see. I need to find like a hill or something so I can kind of show off. Oh, wait, where am I? I view the map. All right, we can come over to. I think here's a good area to showcase some of this stuff. I need to find a like a little miniature cliff, and there's one over here for sure, so I can have some of my wheels touching the ground and some of them not. Let's take a quick little. I forgot I can freaking fast travel. Okay. I haven't played this game in a while, so I'm kind of not used to the camera right now. So I'm kind of messing it up. All right, here we go. All right, so if I go to the tuning and I put, let's say, all the power to the front, the rear, we put on 0, whatever. And I put this all the way unlocked. The power will most likely all go to this wheel that is not really on the ground. Whoa. Because there's no lock. So like I can't even stay on here. How do I lock the wheels? There we go. I can't even like accelerate until all my wheels go on the ground because none of the differentials are locked. You see that one tire gets like all the power because the differentials are letting all the tires spin independently. But if I do this again, what in the world? Okay, there we go. But if I lock all this up, I put all this to, let's say, 50% and then 100% on these. This will make it so the front and rear wheels have 50% of the power locked up between all of them, basically. So the back wheels and the front wheels get the same amount of power, no matter if they have a good amount of grip or not. This one, the front, this is locked now, basically. So no matter if that wheel's hanging off or not, they'll both get the same amount of power. The wheels will spin the same amount of speed. So now, if I go over here and I hang a wheel off, I'll still be able to move and actually put power to those other wheels that are not hanging on. And you can see I can basically drive forward no problem because all the wheels have to turn when I give it gas because they're all locked together. The axles are basically locked. Kind of hard to showcase fully on most games because differentials are a little bit complicated, but um also if I do a burnout, see, all the wheels will basically leave a skid mark if I have enough power. But if I put it like where nothing is locked up and I put it on only, let's say, the back, I might have one wheel spin a ton while the other ones don't spin at all. So you couldn't really see it that well there, but there was one skid mark that went way longer than the other one because the other one caught traction and the other wheel kept on spinning. So you see that one wheel spinning like crazy and left a huge skid mark. Oh, the skid marks disappear really quick. And it didn't equally disperse the power between the wheels, which made my car lose grip on certain wheels. So pretty much all sports cars have like some percentage of lock on their wheels. Usually almost any street car, it's never 100% unless it's like a dragster maybe. Most real cars would have it like 80% in the rear, maybe like 20 something in the front. Forza doesn't make sense. So 100's better on most vehicles, which is unrealistic. Most cars, the front and the rear, like ratio, basically, they have a little bit more power going to the rear because the car tilts back and puts more of the weight on the rear wheels when it's accelerating. So I think I had this on 60, I don't remember. But for off-road vehicles in real life, if you're a rock crawler, you want this 50% and you want these locked. If you're doing like a rally race, you want it very high percentage on pretty much most of the wheels because the dirt, you're going to be kind of losing traction a lot compared to a street. So in Forza, though, basically just 100% on all of them. Brake tuning. Brake tuning is not that important in most games. This game, it kind of is important. So this is brake tuning. If you can put it more towards braking on the front wheels or the back wheels. And most cars, you want the front wheels to brake a little bit harder because when you're braking, the weight of the car shifts to the front wheels. And when it shifts to the front wheels more, you get more control of your turning when you're braking. So if you have it in the back, you're not going to brake as efficiently and you're not going to be able to turn as well. So if you have it where the front brakes more, you got to get a balance. You don't want it all in the front, or else you might oversteer on your braking. You want it to where it works for your car. It depends on every car. Every car is different. So you kind of have to tune it. This one, I guess I found that 49% was good enough. And if you look at the wheels, if I slam on the brakes, they all pretty much stop spinning around the same time. So it looks like it's tuned pretty well. If I had it way towards the front, let's say, um, I think it's that way on this game. The tuning thing is a little weird on this. So this should be, yeah. So there's like no braking on the rear now, and you'll see the front tires stop like immediately, and there's like no braking at all on the back. So if I brake and try to turn, I have pretty good control, but it takes forever to stop because my back wheels are not even helping me brake. So put it back at 49% for this vehicle. Brake pressure, this is how hard the brakes make your wheels stop. Super high is bad. You don't want it to squeeze the freak out of your brakes because then you lose traction. You don't want your wheels skidding. If your wheels are ever skidding on the street, you're losing traction. It's better to never have them skid for traction purposes if you're trying to keep traction. So like if I break this, I'm just instantly skidding, which will take me longer to stop because there's a threshold on tires and everything. Pretty much once it breaks that threshold, the friction threshold, it basically makes it easier to move. It's kind of like if you have a cardboard box filled with a bunch of weight. Like say you have like a 50-pound cardboard box on the concrete. To get it moving, it takes a second. But once you get it moving and you keep it moving, it's a little bit easier to drag. It's just that initial getting it to move or whatever. So this one, you want it to make it where if I press the brakes all the way down, I'm going pretty fast, that it doesn't skid the tires. Also, I have ABS on, which also helps. ABS is really good for vehicles. So I'm skidding a lot less now and I'm stopping pretty quick. So this car, I don't think I really tuned the braking much. So 81% is probably pretty good. I could probably actually go slightly lower. I'm not going to worry about that right now. You have the front downforce, which is the splitter, the rear downforce, which is a spoiler. This car, I have a basically equal amount of downforce, 320 pounds, 320 pounds. Higher downforce makes your tires hotter, puts more stress on your springs, and makes your top speed lower, makes your tires wear out faster in real life. This is the same thing oversteer, understeer, which we already talked about in trailmakers. But I put this super high in the back, super low in the front. My car is not going to want to turn. Let me get to a turn up here. I'm going to try to turn it all the way. That's turning as much as I can. So like I can barely turn. I'm going to turn the music off because I don't know if that's going to give me like copyright. Copyright, I just realized. All right, same here. Ton of oversteer. All right. See how I was able to oversteer right there and flew off the track. Like I stopped turning. I turned for a second and it kept on turning and slid off the road because there's too much air going over the front and made me oversteer. So put it back to where it was. Pretty balanced for this car. All right, now into the suspension. This is better than it was in Trailmakers. Here we have the rebound stiffness, which is how fast your spring uncompresses, and then bump stiffness is how fast it'll let your spring compress. So I think I'm going to change cars for this because you can't really see the suspension on this car that well. I think I got a good truck for it. I don't really show. I think it was an S1. Maybe A class. Wait, it might have been S2. There it is. I don't know if this is my wheelie build or not. Yeah, it is. Okay. So this one I really screwed up the suspension so I could do wheelies. All right, if we turn that down, this will make it extend really fast and make it contract really fast. So I can bring up telemetry here too. All right, here we have all the springs. So if I go over a bump, like you see, like there's like almost no resistance. The spring is just allowed to move freely. It goes up and down pretty much as fast as it wants. It makes the car very bouncy. But if we change it and we make it the opposite, we make it super stiff, the suspension will not want to move a whole lot. It'll move very slowly. As you see, it'll just go up and down like slower. It's not a huge speed difference, but like it makes a big difference when you're driving it. Like you see the pink is going up and down much slower now. Basically, that's all I did. If we did this, keep this super loose and that's super stiff, it'll let the springs compress really fast, but then they won't uncompress quickly. So the suspension will most likely stay compressed a lot more. They go in real fast, but then it's taking forever to bring them back out. You see the pink stays up there much longer because of that setup. Is much more loaded up with pink basically. And this is the opposite. If we did yeah, I think you guys understand this. If you guys don't understand the damping or have any questions, let me know. The front and back damping. For off-road vehicles, you want it pretty low. For street vehicles, you normally want it a little bit more stiff, but not too stiff. And you would normally have the rebound stiffness stiffer than the bump stiffness. So let's say you have a car that pretty stiff. You want to keep this like maybe double the amount of stiffness to 50% is stiff or 50% more stiff. So this is 7. You have it at like 14 or like 10. And if this was like real life, it might be like, I don't know what the units would be at for this in real life, but whatever the units would be, it would be like kind of just more stiff on the rebound normally than the bump stiffness on most street vehicles. And then for the off-road ones, pretty loose. You want the suspension to move pretty freely, but not like launch your truck up in the air after you hit a bump and land it and bounce. Ugh. All right, so springs, super soft for off-road. It could be. I'm American, so I don't know like the metric system that much, but it's probably that or the American equivalent. Well, we're talking about spring dampening, not the stiffness. The stiffness is right here. This is in that measurement. It's in pounds per inch, which yours I think is what, Newton meters, something. So yeah, the damping and the stiffness are two different things. This is yeah, yeah. The spring thing, yeah, but for the damping thing, no. The damping, I don't know. This is how fast the springs are allowed to move. This is how strong the springs are. So if I have this all pretty loose, then it'll make my springs much more likely to compress, and is better for, this is really good for like little bumps on off-road vehicles. This is not great to have it really loose like this if you're going over like kind of bigger jumps. So like if I do this, I have the wrong wheels on this thing, but if I go over a jump right here, if that little bar fills up completely with pink, that's a bad thing. You don't want it to fill up completely. You want it to get it close to filling up. So this is like probably a little too loose on the springs, because this needs to be changed for how heavy your vehicle is basically. So this is a heavier vehicle, and the weight I believe is up more towards the front. So the front springs need to be a little bit more stiff to counteract the engine being in the front and most of the weight being in the front. So we'll put this at like 250. Then we'll put this one at like maybe like that. We'll just see how it kind of goes. Because you want the springs to stay around the halfway point when you're driving. On average. I think the front could be a little bit stiffer on this. And the back ones, I think, are fine. But if you make the springs too stiff, then again, you might as well not even have them. So put this way up. We're probably going to bounce around a lot now because we have low damping and really stiff springs, and we're off-roading, which is not good. So like you can see when I land, I'm bouncing like multiple times. I just bouncing all over the place right now. Like a little trampoline. See that bounce? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's way too stiff. And like you see it's barely even going the halfway point at this slow speed. It's mostly staying, the bar's mostly staying white. That's just, it's too stiff. So if you need some oversteer, I think you can swap it like this, and that'll probably make your handling pretty bad on most vehicles. If you have a street car, and let's say it's like this, they're both equal, your car is pretty balanced. Let's say you're understeering and you already have like your downforce pretty well balanced out, and you already have your differential pretty balanced out and stuff like that. This will help if you bring it up a little bit. That will give you some oversteer. And it kind of shifts some more of the weight towards the front of the vehicle. And helps you turn a little bit better if you have understeer and whatever. But usually you want to keep this like pretty close together. You don't want to usually have it like way up here and way down there, unless the car is like super weird and super heavy in the front and weak at the back or something. I don't know. But yeah, usually you want to keep these pretty close together on most vehicles. So for this one, probably like right around there. That'd probably be good for this one. Also, I forgot about some things on differentials. We'll go back to that real quick. And I'm going to switch back to the Ferrari because we already talked about most of the suspension stuff for now. Mhm. All right, so for oversteer on rear-wheel drive cars is pretty common, and a lot of cars are rear-wheel drive only. So that means all the power goes to the back wheels once rear-wheel drive. And even though this one is set to all-wheel drive, I put it all in the back because of the differential settings. So this, if I floor it, I will likely oversteer on corners. because it's rear wheel drive. But since this one's tuned well, it doesn't really do it too badly. It's more noticeable if I'm like accelerating from a slow speed. While I'm turning. Like you see, I can oversteer like crazy if I floor it and turn. But if I have a front wheel drive car and I floor it while I'm turning, I will most likely understeer. Take this tree off. Okay. So front wheel drive car now. I'm gonna floor it while I'm turning. I'm basically not turning at all, even though I've fully had the wheels turned. So I have much more understeer now. I can feel it in the driving, just because I swapped the drive basically to front from back. This is kind of like the planes and the boats earlier, where if you have it, the power coming from the back, you can't turn, or you can't stay straight that well. And if it's coming from the front, it'll help you to stay straight more and you have understeer. I just see if I start up here. Front wheel drive, all the power went to the front wheels and burned out. The back wheels are just chilling. Where if I take the differential, put it all the way to the back, the front wheels will chill and the back wheels will burn out. And it makes my car spin around, do a donut. Because now it's coming from the rear. Even though I didn't even turn the wheel. All right, so we're going to put it back to where it's mostly in the back, but a lot of it's coming from the front too. And we'll go to anti-roll bars. Anti-roll bars are bars that tie the back and front wheels. So like they go from side to side. It connects this wheel, back wheel, to this wheel with a bar. And the stiffer it is, both wheels will go up and down like together. And if you have no roll bar, then this wheel could move freely from this wheel up and down on the suspension. And if you have no roll bar, your vehicle will more likely lean and tip over and roll over. So in trailmakers, like nobody uses anti-roll bars. I have a couple builds with them actually. I basically just took the wheel and attached it over to this wheel. It's just like a bar right between them on trailmakers that has a couple hinges on it that I can make stiffer or looser. But in real life, it's usually not just a bar right between them. It's like it's a little more complicated system. But for any roll bars, if the rear ones are really stiff, which means they basically have to compress their springs together on both sides, then it promotes oversteer. If the front is really loose, it also promotes oversteer. So this is like the highest oversteer setup on Forza because I have the rear max stiff, the front basically no stiffness. And if we do the opposite, that makes a lot of understeer. I've been driving it with the opposite of this. I've been driving it with stiff rear, loose front. We go in here now. If I'm driving, it should have a lot more understeer. In real life, you don't want it maxed out like that. Doesn't really make sense. It's just Forza works better for certain cars. So my car will kind of lean more or like roll more in the back with this setup, and the front will stay much more level with the road. And with this setup right here, this will keep my back pretty much level with the road, but it will let my front kind of tilt down and up on whichever way I'm turning. So this suspension might be like almost all the way compressed, and then this one might be like almost all the way uncompressed, while these ones will basically be like equally compressed because of the bars tying both of the wheels and springs together. That makes sense. All right. So now we have alignment. Alignment is the wheels. So this might be a little hard to explain, but the camber is the angle of the wheels. So if I put this all the way up, which is bad on almost every vehicle, they have 5 degrees of positive camber. The front wheels are the ones I messed with. They are basically the top of the wheel is tilted away from the center of the car, and the bottom part of the wheel is tilted in towards the center of the car. So it's at a 5-degree angle of positive camber. Whereas if I do it the other way, it'd be 5 degrees. I did both of them of negative camber. You'll see some people with like their silly cars sometimes with like 30 degrees of negative camber. You see the top of the wheel right here is now tilted in towards the center of the car, and the bottom part of the wheel is sticking out. And it's a 5-degree negative camber tilt. Negative camber is almost always preferred. Positive camber, I mean, it would only be good if you're like trying to lose traction. The negative camber helps keep your car in contact with the road while you're turning. And 5 degrees is a little bit much for most vehicles, but there's some vehicles that need it. It helps with turning. If you have like no camber, if they're just perfectly straight up and down, that's usually something you'd have on like a dragster, maybe, where you want it perfectly level because you're not going to be turning at all. But even dragsters might have like, 0.3 or something. I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about dragster camber. But most real life cars, they have like maybe like 1 to like half a degree of camber on average. Some cars have like 2. It just depends on the car and what it's being used for. Toe is almost always 0 on most cars because toe wears out your tires faster and heats them up more and reduces gas mileage, reduces top speed. The only reason you'd ever want tow is if you want your car to be more stable when it like is accelerating. So this might be something that you would change. You'd have like, usually these are opposites. Like if you want more stable, I think I can't remember which direction it is. One of these makes it more stable, and then one of them makes it more unstable. So your car, like let's say, I'm not sure if this is the right one, but like if you had it like this, your car would turn like really sharp quickly and not want to stay straight that much. Whereas if you had it opposite, your car would want to stay straight more and not really turn that much. And what tow is the angle of your tire from front to back. So this tire right here, front to back, might be, the front might be angled out and then the back of the tire might be angled in. So you would have like one tire going this way a little bit, the other tire going this way a little bit in the front. And then if it was opposite, it could be pointed in like this a little bit towards the front. And it'd almost be like a pigeon-toed car where your wheels are both pointed towards each other if you had like extreme tow. Let me see if you guys can see if I increase it all the way. Put them both right there. Oops. Yeah, look. It's like it's sticking the rear of the tire way out, and it almost looks like the tire's turned a little bit. But if you look on this side, it's also the same way. That was toe in, I think. Wasn't it? Yeah. So toe out sticks the front out of the tire and then brings the back in. So now the front looks like it's turned the opposite way on this side, and same on this side. It just looks like it's gonna be fighting to turn left and right the whole time because they're not lined up. Same with the back though. So yeah, toe's almost never a good idea to change that, except for very niche situations. Caster is the angle of the suspension on the front wheels from forward to back. So if you have a suspension thing, let's say it's like perfectly up and down, you put a 7-degree caster angle on it, now it's leaning front to back like 7 degrees at an angle. So I'll show you on the car. Okay, so caster will make this whole wheel kind of at an angle like that instead of straight up and down, or the angle. And that helps with making the camber increase on corners, but also like lessens the camber on straights, which is good. So you can have the angle of the wheel less on the straights where you want it, but then also the camber increases on corners when you want it. If I turn on this here. We have the camber angle is 178 on the front, negative 178 and negative 220 on the right side. And then front left is 178. So while I'm driving, this has max camber, or max caster, I mean. So when I turn, the camber goes up a lot because of the high caster angle. If I was riding a zero caster, I would not have the camber angles change much at all when I turn. I'm going to change it a little bit, but not as drastically. And higher caster kind of helps your car straighten out better after a corner, whereas lower caster is more prone to oversteer. No, that's pretty much it about this. The toe, I can't remember a whole lot about it. It's let me see if I can remember real quick. Okay, so it's this way to increase stability, and then out in the front that increases instability. So this is more oversteer. This is more understeer. But keep it as zero for the most part, or else you get all the bad side effects of more tire wear, less top speed, more tire heat, and all other junk. Gearing is super easy. So gearing is like the easiest freaking thing. Some people think it's really complicated, but it's really not. You have the line here. It goes up. This is first gear. And then your car, this is your car revving. It revs up to 10,000 RPM. You change the second gear. It drops down to, was that like 7,000 RPM? You go through second gear. Revs up to 10,000. You drop it to third gear. And you just rinse and repeat. And let's see, I have this on manual. So if I have first gear, see that bring it up to about 10. I switch to second. Second, when I switch it at 69 miles an hour, brings me to 7,000 RPM. I don't want it to bring me to 7,000 RPM when I go to second gear at 69 miles an hour. I'll increase it or decrease it. So I can make it where almost nothing happens when I go into second gear. I'll go to 69. Now my second gear only brought me there, which means my short gear almost doesn't even exist. Does almost nothing. Or if I bring my second gear way over here, now it should drop my RPMs way lower, and I'll have a major difference from gear 1 and gear 2. Gear 2 dropped me all the way down to 6,000 RPM this time instead of 7. And the goal of this is just try to keep your RPMs in the sweet spot of the car. So for this car, the sweet spot is probably like 9,000 to 10,000 RPMs. And you want to try to keep it close to that, but you also don't want to have like 20 years and you're switching all the time, because you're switching them on a manual. You don't have power going to your thing. So it's kind of a balance. You just want to basically this curve right here. I don't even know where this was. Basically having the gears longer to shorter basically works in like every car. Final drive adjusts all of them. So if I want my top speed to be 121 miles an hour, I'm already on last gear and I can only go 120 miles an hour because my gears are so short. And then if I want it to go as fast as I can, but maybe accelerate a lot slower because my gears are way longer, this might make me accelerate slower just because I don't have as much sweet spot and the torque is lower. So if I floor it, oh wait, let's go to gear one. Now I can go all the way up to 90 in first gear, which is not necessarily a good thing. But if I was driving this in real life, the longer gears would get me better gas mileage because I could keep the RPMs lower at higher speed. But if it's too long, I wouldn't get better. It's just balancing it. You just obviously this car for racing, you want to get it to where the last gear goes up a little bit past your top speed. So if you go downhill or something, you're not like running into your max RPM while still having good acceleration. Like you want to be able to kind of do a burnout a little bit in first gear, in my opinion. So if I hold this, I burn out a lot. But if I started out in second gear, it's a little slower, but I don't burn out. So you kind of want to get it to where your first gear, you maybe slightly burn out or don't burn out at all, but you still accelerate really fast. And then your last gear, you're near your top speed if you're racing. So it's pretty easy. Most people, you set the curve where it's kind of like this, and then you just set the final drive to near your top speed. That's basically it. It doesn't have to be that precise unless you're trying to really increase your time on a drag race or a track where there's tons of tight turns and you don't want to be shifting between second and third gear the whole time because your average speed's like 80 miles an hour and first is too slow for 80 and then second 80 miles an hour is like 2000 RPM and you got no power. But yeah, for the most part, it's not that precise. You just kind of get the curve, put speed up to your near your top speed with the final drive. Pretty simple. I think this is like the easiest thing to tune, even though guess a lot of people think it's the most complicated. And tires. The tires, higher PSI means colder tires, less grip, better tire wear, better gas mileage. Lower grip means higher heat, more tire wear, more grip, and worse gas mileage. Obviously you want to fill up your tires to where they're getting a good amount of grip, good amount of gas mileage, good amount of heat, and that they are not deformed. You want them to be like flat, where the whole bottom of the tire is touching the road a good amount, pretty evenly, even amount of pressure along the tire connecting to the road. If you have it high, you're going to be like a bicycle tire where you only have the middle of your tire touching the road and you're not going to have as much grip. And the center will be pretty hot of the bottom of the tire, but then the outsides will be cold because they're not even touching the ground. So low PSI, like 20 PSI, is for like rock crawling. That's like really low and very grippy. For most race cars and street cars, or whatever, I think it's closer from like, I think it's like 35 for a lot of cars to like 40. Or something like a van or something, or a big truck, it might be higher to like 55 or something. It depends on your car a lot though. Um, like some cars like a Prius or something would have like maybe 30 because they got tiny tires. Usually the bigger the tire, the more pressure you need, but in this game it's kind of weird, so 20 around there is actually better in this game even though it makes no sense realistically. In real life, if I had this Ferrari F50 GT, I'm assuming they would want the tire pressure at like 35 to like 40. If I had to guess, I don't actually know for this car specifically. But also, the higher the tire pressure, the more responsive your car is. So, like, if you hit a bump, you're going to like really veer off course or whatever. It's going to be really sensitive. Your ride is going to be much more bumpy. Whereas low, you have a much smoother ride. If you hit a bump or something, your car isn't going to like jerk off course as much. So usually, if you're looking for a more luxurious, smooth ride, lower tire pressure to a certain extent, obviously, it's like if it's like 5, that's not going to feel good because you're going to be like probably smacking your rim on the ground through your tire. But yeah, real life, I try to keep my tire pressure higher on my car, under the maximum, obviously, because your tires have a maximum pressure. I just try to keep it like maybe 5 pounds below the max so I can get longer, well, I can get more use out of my tires. And if I was going for like a lot of grip and didn't care about wearing out my tires and replacing them multiple times a couple of years or something, then I would have them probably like lower, maybe 30, 35. But yeah, that's pretty much, that's pretty much it. There's not really, I don't think a whole lot more when it comes to tuning vehicles. And there's other stuff too that's like more advanced and stuff like that. But I mean, I've already given out a ton of information, and that information is usually enough to make pretty much any vehicle and most games drive pretty well. And yeah, I don't think there's really much else that I can go over. Is there any questions or anything else that you think that you might want to ask that I haven't covered? Oh, Matt, you're back. Yeah, I was showing more advanced tuning stuff in Forza because they have a little bit more tuning options that are not in trailmakers. But I think I'm pretty much done at this point. I think I went over most of the important stuff. Been about 3.5 hours on the stream so far. When's the next stream? I don't know. I'm not gonna stream a ton. I'll probably go back to like making more videos. Maybe stream here and there. It just kind of depends. I don't know. If I have like an idea for a stream, I'll schedule it like I did this one. But I don't really have anything like planned for a stream, I don't think, right now. I have some videos I need to edit and post. This car right here is overpowered. So you guys pretty much understand all of what I said for the most part. I mean, I tried to go over it pretty thoroughly, but I'm sure there's some stuff that's possibly confusing and whatever. '87 Trans Am. I don't know. Let me see. Sort by year. Can't even see the years on these. '87 Skyline though. 1987. I'll just go to Pontiac and check it. Oh wait. 77. What is this? Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, still got it. Car you own in real life? This used to be my car in real life. The wait a second. This used to be my car in real life. The Grand Marquis version, 2000, not 2010. I sold it. It was a fun car though. All right, I think I'm gonna end the stream though. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna do some food. Hope you guys learned a lot from the stream. Hope you guys had some fun, even though it wasn't like a super fun stream. It's more just giving out tons of information. And yeah, I'm gonna post some videos and stuff. So I will see you guys later. Thanks for joining. Have a good rest of your day and have a good weekend.